For the final project, you are going to be creating your own homepage, or basically a page on any topic that you are interested in. The page does need to be responsive. You do need to incorporate JavaScript commands and HTML5 semantic tags. You will also need to create screen and print CSS, navigation menus, and an icon bar. So I'm just going to give you an overview of the different tasks involved in creating this project. First thing you're going to do is create a folder structure and think about the design of the site. So you do need a folder called Final Project, and that will be at the same level as your lesson folders. Inside the Final Project folder, you're going to create 4 more folders. One for media, CSS, font, and JS. Okay, and this will be what it looks like. You will also create a page called index.html, and that will be like your starting page for the final project. If you can incorporate all of the requirements into index, that is awesome, and you don't need to do anything else. If you can't incorporate everything into index, then you may need to create additional pages. So some of the design things that you should be thinking about is the purpose of the site. It should have a theme, who the intended audience is. You need some kind of a color scheme, and think about why you are choosing those colors. So I kind of went with the orange. Of course, it is my favorite color, but it is also a color for creativity. And so my little theme here was inspiration and creativity and innovation. And so the colors that I chose are reflective of that. So as far as the layout goes and the design, you do need a responsive site. So you're going to choose grid view or flexbox, either one. And then as far as the menus go, you can choose horizontal or vertical menus. You can also choose the push or the overlay JavaScript menus. If you choose the JavaScript menus, you're actually meeting 2 requirements, because there is a JavaScript requirement. And we're going to talk more about the HTML requirements. So you do need to include a viewport meta tag. And let's see, I might do these side by side. That way I can kind of point these out. And that might be a little easier. So you need the viewport. This is required to have a mobile responsive page. You need meta tags for keywords and a description, which I have here. You need at least 4 images. One can be the background image. So I do have a background image. Okay. And I also have more than 4 in my little photo viewer. And the code for all of those pictures is down here. And that's just sticking them into a JavaScript array. Where they're actually displayed is down here in the image tag. And this photo viewer is one that you worked on in the textbook assignment. Okay, so you have to have at least 4 images. They should be stored in the final project media folder. They should have alt text that includes keywords from the page. So this was a little interesting to do this with the photo viewer. So what I did was I incorporated those keywords, kind of generic keywords down here into the alt text. Okay, that was kind of the best I could do for that. And there really is no alt text for a background image. I did make the background image responsive, and I will pull that up. So this is my background image. I use background size cover, which is a responsive format. Other settings that you could use here would be 100% or contain. Those are all responsive, and that is what you need with the images. If you're using the photo viewer, you can't really make them responsive because if you do, they will be larger than your container. So what I did with this so that it would be responsive is I set the width to 250. And you'll notice that that is on a section, and within that section is where I have the photo viewer. Okay, so a width of 250 is a good width for mobile. It also works on tablets and it works for desktop. So if you are using the photo viewer, you do want to keep the width really small. And it is a responsive width. You can see that it works no matter how big or small this page is. And that is what you want. Okay, so that is pretty much the images. And if you are using grid view or Flexbox, it's really not going to be, shouldn't be a problem having the text flow around it. If you have images and content inside a container in Flexbox, you may need to add the float style, setting to right or left to get the text to flow around. Okay, but you do want text flowing around your images. As far as HTML tags, you need the required tags, which are the doc type. This is telling it that it is an HTML5 document. You need HTML, head, title, and body. You also need the HTML5 semantic elements, article, section, header, footer, and nav. Okay, that is a bare minimum. If you want to use additional ones, if you want to use video, audio, that's fine, that's awesome. These are the minimum requirements. In your HTML, you do need to link to your print and index CSS, which I have up here. And you are going to need to remember to put the appropriate media attribute in. And for your layout, you are going to need grid view or Flexbox. That's going to have to be in an external style sheet. And if you are using grid view, you are going to have to add the classes to the different areas of the page to get the responsive layout. Okay, so I've got my body class set up to row, and you can see in my different areas here that I did have to set up columns. I had to put those column classes in the elements to get the grid view to work. And you're going to have to do the same thing. Now, if you use Flexbox, you don't have to worry about that. Okay, you're going to do all of it in your CSS. It's just with grid view, you have to remember to put the classes in the HTML. Then as far as headings go, you need at least one H1, and then you need some kind of a subheading. So you need H2, H3, or summary. Any of those can be used. In my page, I have H1, which is this one. And then these are both headings that are in the details and summary section. So I'm using the summary as a heading. You need to include a menu with at least 4 links in a nav element. The links do not need to be to your own pages. If you're going to use the push or the overlay menus, the examples have div tags, and all you need to do is change div to nav. And that is what I've done here. Okay, your ID and class are still going to stay the same. It's just replacing div with nav, which is short for navigation, and it's an HTML5 semantic tag. It has meaning. Div really doesn't have any meaning. Okay, so we are going to be using nav in this particular project. The title for the page should be in the head section. So what that's talking about is this text that displays up here on the tab. So that goes between the opening and closing title tags. The footer section should include the copyright symbol followed by your name. So somewhere down in the footer, you do need to include that. Also, in your HTML document, you need a JavaScript event handler and either a JavaScript function or a method. Now, I have 2 sections of JavaScript code in here. You guys only need 1. So one of the areas that I use JavaScript was for this overlay menu because I really like how this looks. And it's pretty easy to style and add things to. Okay, so this is all done with JavaScript. And the other thing I did with JavaScript is my little photo viewer. So we'll quick take a look at the code. So looking at the code for the menu, there's actually 2 functions, one to open the navigation menu and the other one closes the nav menu. And you can see it's just adjusting some margin settings. Okay? And this is an exercise that we worked on in the textbook assignment. So you should already have the code for this. Now where that actually gets activated, the event is up here. And you can see on click, it's calling open nav. Okay, so that is the event in the event handler. The other things to take note of, this HTML entity is what gives us this little hamburger over here. I like to call it a hamburger. So this creates the hamburger. And if you wanted to display something else for the menu, you just have to search on HTML entities because there's a ton of them up there. And let's see, the other one I did is for the photo viewer. And so I've got an image array where I put all of the pictures, and I kind of am setting that up, figuring out how long it is. And then I've just got a little function here that when they click on these buttons, that function gets called. And you can see I've got on, click, and change me. And if they are using the previous button, we need to go backwards in the list. So if I'm looking at this one, I need to go back to the one before. So I'm sending it -1. And if we click on this one, that's the next one in the list. So it's going to grab the next one in line. Okay, so these are the event handlers. They're on-click events calling this function. So this is also meeting the JavaScript requirement. Last requirement is the icon bar. And you should be familiar with this. And I just included one at the bottom. And that's pretty much what is required for your HTML section. And if you can meet all the requirements in a single page, great. If you can't, you can create more than one. Now for the index or screen, if you want to call it screen, that's fine. For index or screen and print, we have some additional requirements. So for your screen or index, CSS, you do need to use the box sizing and set that to border box. So we'll take a look at that over here. And that just happens to be right here. So you do need to have that because that is required for a responsive page. Set up either grid view CSS or Flexbox. And if you use grid view, then you are going to have to set up for mobile. And then you're going to have to have breakpoints for tablet and for desktop. Okay, so you'll have to set up all of that. You'll notice that for desktop, I changed the font size a little bit because it can actually be a little bigger. I thought it was looking a little small on a desktop. Okay, so you can actually make it a little bigger, which is what I did. So for desktop, not only do I set up the different columns, I'm also kind of adjusting some sizing here. For your headings, H1, H2, H3, and summary, remember you have to use H1 and then you have a choice of H2, H3, or summary. You do need to style them to include a font color, text shadow, font family, and a font size. That is the bare minimum. Now, I tend to do a little bit more than the minimum, so you can see that I got the font family and the color, got the size, and I do have a text shadow, but I also am setting some alignment, some margin, and letter spacing. I thought my font that I included, because you do have to either include a Google font or you have to use @FontFace and upload one. I thought my font looked very squishy with the letters. I didn't like how it looked, so I did a little letter spacing to spread them out a bit. And then you can see that I've got settings for H2, H3, and summary. Okay, so, and if you want to do a text alignment, and let's see, if you want to skip font family, if you want it to just default to the font family for the body, that is fine. Okay, because we set font family for the body, that's what you want to use for your headings. That's a-okay. You don't have to override that. Okay? And if you want to add in some alignment, that's okay too. But do make sure that you have something for color, text shadow, and size. And let's see. As far as the links go, you can style them however you see fit. Okay? You should have a style change when you hover over the link and when they've visited a link. But if your links are in a menu like mine, then you probably are just going to be able to do a hover style, and that's fine. Okay, so it's totally your choice how you are going to display those links. Okay, the only way you wouldn't get points is if you didn't include link styling at all. Your navigation menu should be styled as a menu. The links should be displayed as buttons, or you can change the cursor to a pointer and have the links animate when you point at them. And that's kind of what mine are doing. Okay, so my cursor looks like a little hand pointer, and you can see that they are animating a little bit when I point at them. Okay, so you have that option as well. And where all of that styling is, it's in the side nav class. So you can see I've got the navigation area styled. Then I've got the anchors, which are the links, styled. And then I've got the hover state styled. And that's really with this kind of menu, that's about all you can do. Okay, so this is how I styled all of that. And then you'll see I did do a little styling for the close button as well. And you can see the reason I'm getting the animation is that on the hover, I added a little transform and bumped up the size. Scale is size. So that's why it seems to get just a little bigger and you get that little animated effect. And let's see, you need a Google font or a custom font. I pulled in Google Fonts. And I believe I did that over in here. Yep, here's my link. I brought in Anton. And so not only do you have to bring it in, you do need to use it. It's not just enough to bring it in. You do have to apply it somewhere. And so I applied Anton to my H1. And that's the one that I thought the letters were too smashed together. So I put a little letter spacing in there so that it would look a little better. Okay, so you do need either a Google font or you need to find a font you like and use @FontFace and upload it. Your body tag should be styled to include font family and a background image or a background color, either one. You will probably have a lot more styling on your body tag than just that. And you can see that I've got the font family, I've got a size, I have a background color, I have set the width, let the height automatically adjust. I've got an image, and I've got all of those image settings, and I also added a border. Okay, and that is hard to see. Okay, that is the white that you see at the top. Remember I said I have black on the background? Okay, so you're seeing a little of that come through, and then I've got this white border. You do need the icon bar with the styling. I have that at the bottom of my page, and the styling for that is at the bottom of my CSS as well. And then you are going to need some kind of CSS transition or animation effect. And I did it down here on my icon bar. I've got a transition. But I also did it way up here in the side navigation bar. There's a transition here. And then I also did the scale on the hover. So I've got it in several different places. You need to at least have it in one spot. Okay, so that is the screen or index CSS. Then for the print CSS, what you're going to want, okay, is basically you're going to turn almost everything off. So the images should be hidden. Your text should be black and about 12 point. Background color should be white. Borders, text shadows, box shadows, all of that should be removed. Margins, padding, all of that should be set to 0. Width should be set to 100%. Links can display underlined, but the colors need to be removed. Everything should display as a block. So it should be displayed vertically, straight down. And then your JavaScript, you do not want that to show when you print. So you can actually tell it script display none. Or what I did is I created a little no print class, and that has display none. So for any little section in my page that I don't want to print, I add that class to it. So this is my print CSS. And you can see I took off the, I've got that, and I'll show you where I have that. I've got it everywhere I have code. and I think I put it in a couple additional areas. You can see I took the outline and the border off. I took the outline off of the white background. I did have a problem with the box shadow because it was still showing up. So just trying to take it out up here did not work. So what did work is I set the size to 0 and the color to white. So when I did that, then it does not show. Okay, so sometimes you do have to be a little creative. So here I've got all sorts of different things turned off, display none, and I adjusted my navigation bar, took my shadow off of a header, adjusted the links. Okay, so this is just kind of a basic print CSS. And so to see that, we'll kind of expand these. And I'm going to do Control P. Okay, so this is what the print CSS looks like. And you'll notice that I did put a page break in because I did not like this. It was showing like this heading and then all the links on the next page. So how did I do that? That I did over in the HTML. So over here, where I wanted it to break, I just threw an inline style, page break all before always. And that put the page break right before this section, so this could go on its own page. Also looking through here, where I've got no print, okay, that prevents that section from printing. So this does not have a script tag, but it does have some JavaScript in it, and it's got this little funky symbol. I didn't want that printed out. So that's what part of the reason I created this no print class. Okay, so you'll see it in several sections in here, but that is the whole purpose. So whatever section has it, that whole entire section will not print. Okay, so that is the print CSS. And then once you are done with the print CSS, the next task is going to be to transfer everything to the web and check it live. Sometimes things work well offline, but they do not work online. So I want to make sure you guys check it live. And at that point, you will be done. You're going to add the link to your assignment page, and then you'll be done with this.